first, Ryan, let's talk about the Jacob Lacey news. Now we're gonna be real careful with what we discuss here because we're still gathering information from all sides. I'm a big believer in getting data and intel from all sides, and so we're gonna basically tell you what we know now that basically I have been able to confirm from multiple parties. The rest of it we'll have on the message board later today. So the rest of the stuff that I've been told, because it's a little bit more sensitive, is going to be stuff that we'll put on the message board later on. So yet another reason to sign up for boards.irishbreakdown.com. That's not a trick to try to get you to sign up. It's just right now we're still gathering information, and that's why we're not going to be as forthcoming with some of the stuff now, because I don't want to put something out that I heard from one source when I haven't heard it from the other three that I've spoken to. And I want to make sure that what we do put out is well sourced, and so then we can say, hey, this is what one side is saying, this is what the other side is saying, and so we can be fair with how we get this information out and get it to you. So we will share with you obviously just a little bit of what we know, and then kind of what this means for Notre Dame. So number one, and again, I'm not trying to be a tease. Well, I guess that might be about the thing that's happening with the thing next weekend. So yes, I am being a tease about that one. Yes, but the Jacob Lacey thing, it's not really that. So let me tell you a couple things here going on. So number one, obviously, Jacob Lacey announced that he is leaving the team and entering the portal. Obviously, the timing of it is about the fact that he's played 4 games. So moral of the story, and this is something that I've been able to confirm from multiple people, is that Jacob basically was not happy with his playing time this year. It had been inconsistent. He played a lot against Ohio State, played a lot against Cal, played great against Cal, didn't play a whole lot against North Carolina, and didn't play a whole lot against you had 2 different streams going, Ryan. That's why we had to get that figured out. But he didn't play a lot against North Carolina. Only played 9 snaps a week after dominating against Cal. Didn't play a lot against Marshall. I think there was some frustration there, and wasn't being kind of promised that he was going to play more moving forward, and he wanted to redshirt. And the red shirt would allow Jacob to have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Now, Jacob has played 4 years at Notre Dame. This is his 4th year. However, the COVID year of 2020 doesn't count, which means if he takes a red shirt this year, he would then have 2 years of eligibility remaining. And he wanted to use that at Notre Dame, but I think there were some things that had to go along with that just weren't going to work out. I don't want to get into too much because, again, I'm still trying to get from more sources. And when basically people weren't seeing eye to eye on certain things, and Jacob made the decision to leave. This is why I hate the transfer portal. I had somebody on Twitter saying, yeah, I can't blame him. He's doing what's best for him. I'm so sick of that. Look, maybe this is something that he needed to do. I'll find out more later, but I just think that this is just the fact that a kid can just leave in the middle of the season is something that just doesn't sit well with me, even if there's some legitimate reasons for him wanting to leave. If not, whatever. I don't like it, but it is the world we live in. At the end of the day, I think Jacob made a decision that he felt was best for him. I'm not passing judgment on that per se, because I'm still trying to get more information. There are circumstances that I could find out, and I don't know what they are. I'm not saying I know them about this situation, Ryan. I'm just speaking in general. Mm-hmm. There are things that a kid or a parent or a coach could tell me that I would say, you know what? I understand why the kid left. He needed to leave. And there are other instances where I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that. I don't know enough about this situation yet. I've only got, I've gotten some intel on this, but I just want to hear a little bit more before I'm ready to kind of pass judgment on either criticizing the staff or criticizing Jacob or criticizing both, which is an option too. So I'm not there yet, Ryan. We're not there yet because we need to learn more about this situation. But what we do know is that he is leaving the team. And I was told that the players and coaches tried to talk him into staying, but they just weren't willing to kind of do the things that needed to get done to get him to stay, from what I understand. And he is going to enter the portal and have 2 years of eligibility left. And that's kind of where we are at with the Jacob Lacey situation. So he will not be with the team. That obviously is a major blow, Ryan, because, yes, his playing time had been inconsistent this year, which I don't quite understand. I would like to see them do part of it was the fact that they were using Riley Mills inside a lot last week against North Carolina, which I understand as well. But this is a blow because the interior of the line has been really good. They are in a position where they can sustain this loss now, but they now can't sustain an injury. They can't afford for anybody to get banged up now, because then you start having to moving Riley permanently inside, which isn't ideal. You have to, there's a lot of other things you might have to do in order to be okay there if there's another injury. So it's a loss. It is a loss. Yeah. But I do think that as long as there are no other losses, which we'll see if that's going to happen or not, they can sustain this loss. They can. But the margin for error just got a lot thinner for a unit that has, honestly, in my opinion, on the defense, you could argue either corner. Coming into the Carolina game, it was corner and interior D-line were the two best units on defense. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
Yes.
Coming out of that game, it's now the interior, because the corners gave up some boneheaded plays in that game as a whole. So I think through 4 games, I think the interior of the defensive line has been Notre Dame's best unit so far. And you just lost a player who's, has been a pretty good player so far for them when he's still feeling healthy.
And I've been a big fan of Jacob Lacey too, Brian. I think in one of our preview shows for the season, I talked about him being like one of the key contributors, right? Like one of the X factors, I guess, for the defense. A guy that I thought had some penetration ability, and I think that we saw that in the Cal game, where you saw this kind of upside that he has as that penetrator when he's able to be healthy and be on the football field. So, never going to sugarcoat it and say that this isn't a loss. It's a loss to the depth you have, because hey. You have Howard Cross, you have Jason Amalolo, very good football players. Chris Smith has played a lot better than we anticipated at a higher level, or more impactful football player, I guess is the best way to state it.
We thought he'd just give good, solid backup snaps, and he's been good.
Yeah, he's been good. Yeah. And Gabriel Rubio started to show some signs of giving some legitimate snaps as a contributor. So at that point, you're just like, oh, man, this is a really deep and just good unit overall. So it takes a hit on that, but like you said, I do think that they have the depth and they have the players where you can subside this, right? Like, it's not going to be something where, like, you lost Jacob and your interior defensive line goes from good to below average, right? Like, it's still going to be a good unit. It's just obviously losing a nice contributor is a loss. There's no doubt about it.
I think that you look at this situation, Ryan, and it's a bit of a black eye for Notre Dame. Whether it's a legitimate situation or not, whether they're okay with it or not. I mean, it hurts to lose a kid, but this is just the reality of college football that we're in. And kids now have leverage where they can say, hey, look, if you don't give me A, B, C, and D, then I'm leaving. And that's the leverage they have now. And unfortunately, I would not change the 4-game rule. I would not. That's one thing that I'm okay with. I think maybe what I might do is I might say limit it to younger players, you know what I mean? Like, if you play 4 games in your first 2 years, but if it's something that happens in your junior, senior year, it has to be injury related for you to grant that extra season, that kind of thing. So, but I think the 4-game rule is something I like and support. And sometimes there's just consequences to a good rule. What I don't like is when there's consequences to a bad rule that you knew those consequences are going to be there. This is just something that's going to be part of the deal, unfortunately. And it doesn't happen a ton, but it's part of it. So that's kind of how I feel about the situation, but it's a blow. It's a blow for Notre Dame. Now, is it one they can overcome? Yeah, they can. They can. I don't know if there's necessarily any, maybe Jason Onye gets a chance to get, some more playing time now. He gets moved up the depth chart and starts practicing with the 2s a little bit. Maybe Tyson Ford starts getting a little bit more playing time. Maybe he's a guy that could be ready to kind of push for some of those snaps. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle this, Ryan, and especially if there's another injury. If there's another injury inside, that could be that's when this could become problematic for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that he cushions the loss too with the fact of, like, because I agree with you, Brian. I don't want to see Riley Mills as a full-time interior player,
right? But
the fact that he can do those things does help. Obviously losing of a Jacob Lacey, because what did he play last game? We said, what was it, 9 snaps? You said he played last game
against North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's a loss because he's a good football player, but with the depth that you've created with the Chris Smiths of the world, with Gabriel Rubio getting better, and having a guy like Riley Mills, who, although we both like more as an outside-in type of player, the fact that he has done things inside in the past, you can supplement some of those snaps. So it's not a demoralizing loss, but it is still a loss. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the Jacob Lacey situation. I think what's the immediate impact? Obviously, Gabriel Rubio is going to get some more snaps. I think at nose guard, his nose guard snaps are the nose guard's not impacted, but as long as everybody's healthy.
Yep.
Now, what happens is let's say something happens to Howard Cross. Hypothetically, let's say Howard Cross can't play on Saturday, right? Then all of a sudden you're saying, okay, now who plays nose? Are you going to put Jason Adamiola at nose for some snaps? Are you going to put Riley at nose for some snaps? Does Chris Smith and Gabriel Rubio go from playing 7 to 10 snaps a game to 20, 30 each, right? Which would kind of be where they would have to be at that point in time. That's where we say you can't really sustain another injury. So as long as the nose guards are healthy, Cross, Rubio, Smith, then I think they're fine. Because you've got Jason Adamiola, you can play Riley Mills inside. You can move Alexander Ahrensberger inside the 3 technique as well against certain teams. A team that's going to come out and run the football on you all day. That's not really where you want to have Alexander Ahrensberger. If they're playing a USC, if they're playing, like I wouldn't want Alexander Ahrensberger playing a bunch of snaps at 3 technique against Syracuse. Right. That's not where I want him, because that's a team that's they're going to run it at you. They're going to have a big physical offensive line and run it at you. Right, Ryan? I think we agree on that. But if he would have been playing some of that a little bit against USC, North Carolina at times.
Right. Yeah.
Against, BYU would be a game where, especially in some nickel packages, I'd be okay putting him inside, taking some of those snaps. But, in situations where that they're in a throwing situation, maybe if there's certain personnel groupings that BYU is more pass oriented in, you kind of, match personnel like they have been the last couple of games. There's a body, Jason Onye is a kid, like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing kind of pushed a little bit. Jason's still probably a year away from being a major contributor. I really like his potential at Notre Dame. I don't know if this year's the year for him to be ready for that, but now he gets a shot, right? Potentially to get some more reps in practice, and then maybe that leads to some reps in games. So that's going to be the interesting thing, is it's not just about how do these reps get dispersed in a game, but how these reps get dispersed in practice is going to be another key part to this, Ryan, which makes this whole thing very interesting. So,
and I almost wonder, Brian, if they play maybe a little even more odd front. It's possible, right? I don't know. I'm just I'm spitballing on top of my head. It's it's going to be interesting to see. But I think with Riley playing a little bit more inside, with Chris Smith playing more again, and Gabriel Rubio starting to get more snaps, I think, again, you can manage this loss. But to your point, I'm going to be interested to see how exactly they give those reps away, right? How they manage the workload. Because to your point, if someone gets hurt, then you're in a tough spot. So we'll see what they do with supplementing.
That's right.